I've spoken in the past about gagging orders and about the desperation of NHS management to gag people who criticise or who expose malpractice. But malpractice needs to be exposed, and it's not always immediately evident, as we saw in the Lucy Letby case. Also in the Lucy Letby case, I think there is an assumption that doctors and nurses know best for what the patient should have, and we've got this discussion about, quote, quality of life, which is completely inappropriate. Instead of this, we need to have a discussion about kindness, a discussion about what families and what individuals want. The story today about Sudiksha and how she was quite coherent and saying what she wanted, and yet the NHS Trust, in her case, was really quite clear that it tried to silence her and subvert, sideline her concerns about the way her illness was managed and her desire to go abroad to have better treatment. I can understand that, because I feel extremely anxious about the treatment that I may face in the UK. I don't feel confident, and I don't feel protected, and I don't feel cared for. Why? Because every time I have dealing with the NHS, it seems to be wrong. I got a letter the other day from an NHS person, and there were misspellings in it. Specifically the word hour, H-O-U-R, which clearly was supposed to stand for O-U-R, hour. But if people are going to be that casual in writing a letter, which takes 2 weeks to be dispatched from the date at which it was dictated, I think that tells us a great deal about the way management is working in the NHS. It is simply casual, it is simply overworked, maybe, and it simply cannot manage. Now, of course, we could say protect the NHS. We could say, oh, we want the NHS to be as serviceable as possible. Yes, we do. But we also want to make sure that we receive the best care that we can, and that best care may not any longer be in this country. And I am shocked. I'm really shocked that we still operate the fantasy and the propaganda that people are coming over to this country to get access to our great NHS. Our great NHS has been run to pieces, not because we haven't paid doctors and nurses what they deserve. I think we haven't, but I don't think that's the main reason why the NHS is in a mess. The main reason the NHS is in a mess is because it's run by utter twits. The management of the NHS, the bureaucratic system of the NHS, is run by people who can hardly string a sentence together and who have got their job by being in the right place at the wrong time. And they cling on. You don't see management striking, do you? Do you? You don't see management striking. You see doctors and nurses striking. You don't see management wondering where they're going to park their big fancy car, do you? But you see doctors and nurses wondering where they're going to park their car, if they can park their car, or having to park miles away and then walk. It's simply not reasonable to have a service like the NHS run by twits who don't respect the people who are doing the real work. Oh, my goodness. Haven't we got something similar at in the media? Haven't we got to a point where producers are doing all the work and it's left for directors and actors to realise it for far less pay? We need to find a way to ensure that those people who are actually doing the work at the cutting edge are getting a fair whack of the payment. And these people who are mindless, who have got their senior positions simply by being in the right place, and who are, broadly speaking, demonstrating their incompetence on a daily basis, they should be out. When we look at GB News, for example, yes, I think Lawrence Fox has behaved appallingly. Yes, I think Dan Wootton has behaved appallingly. When it comes to Ava Evans, I think she didn't deal with her interview as well as she could have done. And a good production company would have filtered her comments with, or would have complemented her comments in that particular discussion with a recap of the issue about male suicide. But it chose not to do that because actually it was more interested in sensationalism than in getting across a message of care. And I think GB News, the production runners, the producers, the baby producers, the ones who sit with the talent and go through what the talent is going to say again and again and again. Sometimes it's up to 3 production assistants. They're called producers, but they aren't. They're little more than sort of jobbies running around the place, constantly asking the same questions, ticking things off. And I don't think it helps to focus the program, and I don't think it helps to focus the comments. What we want is a little bit more spontaneity. What we want is to rely and to treasure the people who are actually doing the work, whether this is doctors, whether this is nurses, indeed whether this is lawyers. But the debate about family law, which is going on at the moment, and the suppression of information so it doesn't get into the public domain because of gagging orders which are imposed by bureaucrats who are more interested in saving their own skin than they are in saving the lives of people who turn to the NHS for help. This is the problem, where bureaucrats and managers have been given too much power, and they're using that power to hide their dereliction of duty, their failure to ensure that people get the best choice possible, whether they're riding on a train, whether they're going to the NHS for life-saving medicine, or whether they're simply switching on the telly. In the end, what they're getting is the leftovers after the management have taken their pay. I don't think that's the right way round.